What happens if he wasn't looking for a car? Mr. Schneckel or whatever his name is gets it. The captain there.
Mr. Schneckel? Is that... It's Manzini. It's like I don't even know where you get Schneckel from Manzini.
Where did you get that?
I don't know.
Welcome back, everyone, to S1E1, a show where each week we pick a different sitcom, watch just the first televised episode, and forgetting anything we might know about the future run of that show, rate it and decide if it's a show we want to greenlight or cancel. This week we're going to be talking about My Mother the Car. My Mother the Car went 30 episodes with only one season on NBC. Today we're talking about episode 1, which is called Come Honk Your Horn, originally airing September 14th, 1965. So to get things started, I'm Jay Gags. With me, as always, the boys, Gordo, Ferg, and Nick. What's going on, guys? No Joe this week.
Hey. I don't even think there is a clip to pick from this show.
It's not the most quotable, to be completely honest with you.
There's no listeners, Davey. What? Like, come on.
Real quick, just want to apologize on Joe's behalf. Unfortunately, he found out that he was allergic to the new chapstick that he got, and his lips are swollen right now, and had to go to the Minute Clinic. So he wanted to make it, but honestly, when he was trying to talk, it was like, basically you couldn't understand a fucking word he was saying. So, get better. We couldn't, because of timing, make this work out to wait it out. So, sorry he can't make it, but he's here in spirit.
It's always something with Joe, unfortunately.
Get well soon, Joe.
I told him not to use Temu chapstick.
My Mother the Car. I can't remember. Which one of you picked this?
That would be my pick.
And why did you pick this?
So a friend of the show brought that to my attention. Philip, he showed me the series, and I watched the intro and saw the song. So I'm driving. I'm like, oh God, we got to cover this.
You knew that if you waited long enough, Gordo would have picked this though, right?
At the time, Gordo never even mentioned it. And then after I picked it, he said, you saved me from picking it. So
I was going to say, often Gordo just Googles worst shows of all time.
And that is
this is certainly one of
up
them.
There. It's in any list that I've seen, My Mother the Car is always 2 or 3.
Well, what's weird about it, interesting is the creators of the show, Alan Burns, Chris Hayward, they created Rocky and Bullwinkle, The Munsters, Get Smart. They had a lot of success.
And they had the right idea with Jerry Van Dyke, too. He's an icon. He's hysterical.
We've known Jerry Van Dyke more later on with Coach and Coach we covered a long time ago.
Yeah.
Seeing him young here, I thought he was very charming and stuff too.
Yeah.
I thought seeing him in this, he wasn't relying on as being as silly for his comedy.
Yeah.
It was a whole different perspective from him. It was kind of cool to see.
It was also cool not having to hear Coldplay with the Van Dyke in the video.
What's fun? I think at the moment Gordo blanked on Dick Van Dyke's name.
With the Van Dyke.
Definitely did.
With the Van Dyke.
The Van Dyke. You fucking idiot, man. You
Listen,
couldn't think of Dick Van Dyke.
Well, no, I was thinking of I don't know if they were called the Van Dyke brothers or not. I don't know if Van Dyke.
Oh, I'm sure.
The famous Van Dyke
neighbors
brothers.
might have known them that way. Yeah.
But anyways, it's funny if you from from the middle of the face down, he looks like Dick Van Dyke, and then from the nose up, you can tell it's Jerry. It's weird.
Well, yeah, they're definitely brothers. You can definitely see a resemblance between the two for sure.
It's also funny when you see something like this, which was 1965, I think, and then something like Coach, which was mid to late 90s, I think. Did Jerry Van Dyke shrink 2.5 feet?
Yeah, right.
Because he seems to be like a over 6 foot guy in this show, and then you see him on Coach, and he's just this little old guy.
Well, Coach,
what happened?
by proxy of the type of show it was, most of the guys on that show were fucking giants.
That's true. Yeah, Dauber and Craig Nelson are pretty big guys. So I guess I gotta look up how tall Jerry Van Dyke is actually.
Yeah, this is a show that IMDb has at a 4.7, Rotten Tomatoes, nothing, audience or critic. If you want to watch the show, you can go on YouTube. It's findable right there. It's not tricky. So you can watch it right on YouTube if you want to watch along, or if just hearing us talk about it sparks your interest.
He was only 5'10". He just seemed taller, I guess, here.
Oh, so I'm taller than him.
Yeah, just before we even get into it, just so you guys, the basic premise of this car is Jerry Van Dyke's mother
This show.
comes back to life and enters a vehicle. and now he talks to his mom, who is now a car.
Listen, we've covered stupider shows.
No.
What I don't get is why the hell the mother didn't talk.
Yeah, it drove me fucking nuts. And her reasoning changes because we'll get into it, but when they're driving home, she goes, she'll never believe you. And then, when she has a chance to prove it.
Yeah, there's so many things wrong with this show.
I think there was, I thought it kind of got touched on, but not in a way that I thought was a valid enough excuse, but we'll get into it. We might as well just talk about the show.
They should have just said, only you can hear me, Michael, or something like that.
Yeah, there was
that
ways
his name?
around it.
Yeah, she says at the end, like, no witnesses.
Like she's a serial killer.
Yeah, like she's a serial killer. Like, what
No
the fuck?
witnesses.
No witnesses, Davey.
Yeah, and real quick before we get into it, just want to let all you guys know, go to S1E1pod.com. That's where you can find all the links to all our social media. That's where you can find all the links to, where to listen to us, X, Twitter, what else we got? TikTok. We're on everything now, YouTube. So go there, follow us and all that stuff. Definitely the most interactive, if you want to talk to us, would be Instagram and X. So shoot us messages. Let us know shows you want us to cover. We'll definitely look at them. As you can see, nothing is off limits. Yeah, I mean, to get right into it, here we go. So, first scene, we meet Dave. Dave is Jerry Van Dyke's character. He's walking around a used car lot, and he finds himself standing in front of this one car that has a sign on it that says Fixer Upper. It's a 1928 Porter, which is not a real car. As I look into it,
I did a little research. It sounds like you found the same thing I did, but
mostly made out of a Model T car. I mean, it's a classic car in its own right.
It's the combo of a 1924 Ford Model T Touring. That's the body, and then I guess the engine for the actual car was it's like a Chevy, a 283 Power Glide, which sounds like a dildo. But it's also interesting too to see how old this car is too. Like it's the Ford. It's a Model T. It's like it's like the first car ever produced, right?
Yeah, but this is only 20 years old.
That's what I was saying. So that would be the equivalent. It's actually a 37-year-old car because it's a 1928, and Gordo math was wrong, but it would be the equivalent of us buying a 1988 car today. So
it's like, it's not common, but not crazy.
Right.
The car kind of looks like a horse and buggy without the horses.
Yeah, well, that's funny actually, because if you look into so Porter is like a real car brand. And they made
briefly out of Connecticut.
Yeah, in like the early teens, their first car was a steam powered engine, and then up until I think after 1928, they made like a luxury car or something like that. But they were not in production for the night, which is strange. They could have picked a car that was in production. I don't know why they didn't.
So he finds himself in front of the car. And this thing is a giant piece of shit. Like to the point where even he goes to touch it and the headlight falls off.
Yeah.
But I don't know, whatever it was, something drew him to the car. And he climbs in. He's playing with the steering wheel. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe something about how old the car was attracted his eye. And then all of a sudden, while he's in the car, you hear from the radio, "Hello, Davey." And then without skipping a beat, he goes, "Hello, Mother." And then he starts looking around confused. And then it's no, Davey, you heard something. It's me. And he's looking around again. We find out within a minute from now, by the way, that his mother's been dead for a while. So just hearing her voice, he didn't think, he's where is she? He's looking around Shouldn't you be a little bit more confused by the fact that it's your dead mother, not like...
Also, it's really strange how they kind of jumped into this, isn't it? Like there's no introduction to the story at all. It's just him at the car.
He just happens to find the car, yeah.
It's not, hey, honey, I'm going to look at cars, or, oh, this car looks nice. No, how about this one? No, it's just he's at the car. There's no buildup whatsoever to this.
Yeah.
Which, in most cases, I'm like, cool, get right into it. But in this instance, I'm like, it feels like you missed the first 10 minutes of an episode.
Just the fact that it was just like, because it's very quiet. The whole first minute is just basically him just looking around.
He goes,
And there's like no audio. It's like, yeah, it's just walking around. And, you know, it, like, even if he was like, if there was a car salesman with them, and it could have been like, oh, yeah, and like, this one's Dolores. It's like, oh, that's weird. That was, my mom used to be
My
called
mom's
Dolores.
name.
You're like something. But it's just, he just hops in this random car for no reason, and then his mom starts talking to him.
One of the issues I had with the whole plot's a little ridiculous. It's like, there's never a stated reason why the mom came back. And I could see if, like, he was a struggling man, his family life was all a mess and stuff. But he seems to be doing pretty damn fine.
Yeah, it just, I came back to help you. Like, that's all I came back to help you. With what?
He got a beautiful wife, 2 kids. He's doing fine. He can afford
As a matter of fact,
car, like...
he had 0 problems until she came back.
Maybe his mom was a troublemaker.
He's just never liked the wife.
Yeah. So we get into the theme song from here, and it's like this big band music.
It's a doozy.
This is, by the way, the first of 3 times that they play the full song in this episode.
Hey, listen, they paid for it.
I don't know, like, the melody properly to sing it. So even if any of you guys have a line or two you want to sing,
She's an alligator.
it was close.
Man-eating gator. When your mother's a car.
Yeah.
My
And
mother the car.
My mother the car.
I guess there's a version of the song that Sammy Davis Jr. recorded. He did a cover of the song.
Neat.
So that's out there. Because the guy who wrote the song, well, the lyrics at least for it, Paul Hampton, like, wrote a bunch of songs. He's like wrote some for Sammy Davis Jr. I don't know, like, you think, like, did he sneak that one in there? He's like, hey, what's this? Like,
oh, I love it, baby.
yeah.
Yeah, the theme song is probably the best part of this whole show.
It's fun. I mean, it's fun. So post that intro, then we get into the next scene, and it's continuing right from where we left off. We see a quick title, like, over that reads, like, Come Honk Your Horn, which is like a play on what was it? It was like the Frank Sinatra movie, Come Blow Your Horn or whatever. Something like that.
This is where we miss Joe. He would know this.
Yeah.
I got a horn you can blow.
Oh?
Yeah.
So he goes, mother? And she goes, now, son, take it easy. You'll probably go through the roof when you hear this, but this is your mother talking. David, I've come back. And just as she says, he literally jumps straight through the roof like a fucking rocket. Because it's like the old cars have like those cloth roofs. So he like rips straight through it and like falls into his back seat.
Now, I want to know the rules of this. Is that like her flesh? Why did she go, ow?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
David, that tickles.
So many questions.
Well, it gets even weirder when he starts shifting the stick. She goes, This is where we miss Joe. Oh, my carusi.
Come on, man.
This is his mother.
Step car.
Step guy.
This is his.
Not even step.
So she's saying, be careful. You're going to break your collarbone again. Are you all right? You sound like my mother. Sure can't be. She passed back in, and then she says the date, August 23rd, 1949. He's like, how'd you know that? Like, I was there, David. I'm your mother. And that's all it took. That's all it took. He goes, I guess you are my mother. Like,
Not, wow, whoever's pranking me, how are you coming through my radio or something like that? It's just, okay, you are mom.
well, she knows I broke my collarbone in the day she died, so I don't know. I thought, like, again, there's just not enough setup. So the idea of, okay, this happens, he gets in the car, she starts talking, he's like, oh, I guess your mom. And like, it's just weird. It's just, to come into it cold like that, it just, There should have been some sort of a scene, or it's just, I don't know, anything to tie it. It wouldn't make it make sense, but it was like, there was like, you need to build up to this.
Can like the car get hit by lightning like the Munsters or something? Because
honestly,
that
even
would
something
be
like
better.
that does like make some sense.
Yes, like give it some sort of origin. It just appears. It doesn't make any fucking sense. It's a silly concept. Like I get that at its base level, it's a silly concept. It doesn't have to be like just. It's so inorganic the way that it's introduced. It's
I mean, look again. The same creators created the Munsters. That's a fucking silly concept. But you write it in a way that makes sense. You know, you at least explain a thing or two.
Yeah.
Well, my whole thing is like, so she comes back. What happens if he wasn't looking for a car?
Yeah, just by chance.
And Mr. Schneckel or whatever his name is gets it. Like the captain there.
Mr. Schneckel? Is that it's Manzini. It's like I don't even know where you get Schneckel from Manzini.
Where did you get that?
I don't know.
But yeah, so he's already very accepting of the fact that this is his mom. He's like, I didn't even know things like this were possible. In this line, I did not understand it. Maybe in the times it made more sense. But when she went, oh, you don't, huh? Well, I understand there's a baseball team called the Mets. If that's possible, I'm possible.
Yeah, I didn't get it either.
When were the Mets incepted?
But even then, like, what's so crazy about naming the team the Mets? Like, what? I don't know. I
Over
wish
my head.
it's so long ago, like, maybe that joke landed in the 60s.
Oh, I actually think I know this. Doesn't the 1960s Mets have like the worst record in Major League Baseball? Like in the history of Major League Baseball? Don't they have like
Even
the worst loss
she's
record?
Talking specifically about the name. Unless I'm wrong, I thought it was just because of
the name.
like, Metropolitan something.
Yeah, and she died in 49, according to this. So, you know, we're to believe that she's been dead for like 15, 16 years.
They also don't say how long she's been the car. Like, did she die and immediately go to be this car? And was this car just sitting in the slot waiting
she does
for the
kind of
sun?
talk about that later. It looks like you just sign up to come back to life.
Actually, the 1962 New York Mets went 40-120.
So I think
that's bad.
No, she's dead for that. She's like,
but she knows.
She's a radio Jay. Maybe she can tune into baseball games. Maybe that's all she had.
I think you're confusing her with Bumblebee from the Transformers.
Well, no. So yes, she died, right? But we don't know because they don't give you any information how long she has been this car.
Oh yeah, that's also true. She could have had to listen to the entire 1962 Mets season.
But that still wouldn't make the joke make sense that she's a team called the Mets. Huh? Like,
yeah, that's not the joke. Wouldn't be that the Mets are bad. It's just that I don't know. There's a joke somewhere in there, and maybe it made sense in the 60s, but it doesn't make sense in 2025. This is when he's asking, like, can anybody come back like this? And she kind of gives the whole backstory with, well, yeah, but like most don't want to. And that typically the application bin is pretty empty. She came back because you need help, son.
with what?
With what? What does he need help with? His only conflict this whole episode is that she exists now. That's his only conflict.
Yeah, it's really weird.
If it wasn't for her, he was going home with a station wagon, making his wife happy, and he was going to go about his life.
Yeah, no, I agree. This whole thing does not make a lick of sense.
Yeah, so now he has to go buy his mother, who's this old car, and like you see him like driving down the road.
The old battle axe.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, I can't get over the town. How much this town's changed. All the smog. And the car's like puttering.
It was like the old Goldomobile.
It is.
And then, yeah, that's when we get the little weird kind of thing with him shifting and stuff and her making. And I know it's not intended to be, but it did come off a little odd in those regards.
Now, she has control of herself. She can be a self-driving car. Do you think if he didn't buy her, this whole thing didn't happen, would she have just drove to him?
That would also be a better origin story than this.
Yeah, true.
It would be fun if you like tried to ditch the car a couple times and it would like keep like driving back to the house.
I feel like that's if you made this show today, that's how it would have gone. Him trying to get rid of this car, or just thinking he just accepts everything immediately, and it's super weird.
I think we should pitch a reboot
Reboot of My Mother the Car.
and we write it.
I think it could work now, just because it's so silly. It's like
It is so
modern
silly
humor.
if you play into the silliness of it. And again, any silly concept for a show can work if you just try to explain it. Like some of the shows we've covered, you know what I mean? They are amazingly odd concepts to shows, but it's all how you play it. And if you're being clever with the writing and it's fun or funny, but like this just lacks a lot of those things. So it's being played extremely dry. Like there's no backstory, there's no explanation to anything. Like
So they asked the writers to come up with a very rough outline for a sitcom, and they were like, okay, here's this very rough outline for a sitcom, and they just filmed that. They did not
100%.
fill it in at all.
This feels like it should have probably just been a cartoon.
Yeah, or that, true.
Like this would work as like a Rocky Bullwinkle style cartoon.
no, but you still need to explain what's going on better, you know?
I can accept what's going on in a cartoon, in a very old cartoon.
No, because the issue with this isn't that it's live action. If you put this in cartoon, it would still be stupid.
Yeah.
All right, touche.
Yeah, so as they're going for this drive, she like takes over the wheel and like he goes to make a turn and she goes the other way and like cuts and he's like, "Mom, I wanted to turn left." Like, I know, but we need to rehearse a bit before we get home. So apparently the idea is you can't tell your wife the reality of what's going on. So you're going to have to explain to her like that you paid, whatever for the car, but the motor alone is worth twice as much. So it's like, you got this great deal. He's like, "Well, I'm not going to do that." It's like, "Why would you do that?" He's like, "I'm not going to lie to my wife. I'll tell her the truth." She's like, "The truth?" And then the car does another like, "Brr, brr, brr," and like fucking honks and all this weird shit happens.
It makes some of the weirdest noises. Not even just the honks. It makes a wah, wah, wah noise.
And she's saying like, "For the sake of your marriage, David, lie. She's never going to believe you." And like you said earlier, like, well, maybe if you fucking talk in front of her, she will believe you. Like,
Yeah, you can talk. It's just so stupid. Like, when the wife is arguing with them, all she has to do is be like, "I never did like you." Boom. They're in on it.
Yeah.
Then, like, later on, like, when it comes up and they're trying to, like, trick the mom into talking in front of her, she goes, "You know the rules, Michael. Like, you can't."
why do you keep turning you into the main character?
Because I just want to be a guy with a car that is his mom, all right?
Yeah. So he's saying like, "Listen, I know my wife," saying like, she'll believe him. And then that cuts to, him and his wife talking once he gets home. And she's going, "You don't know me at all, David Crabtree. If you think you could bring this home instead of a station wagon." Kid's like, "What happened to your head, Dad?" Like, "Oh, it's all right, Dad. I hit it on the car." And she's pissed. She's like, "Give me one reason that, you didn't buy that station wagon instead of this pile of junk." And it's like, "Oh, Barb, like, he's like, I had to." And he gets into this like, thing. It's like, I had to buy this car because it's my mother. And like, you get like the individual cuts of everyone giving him a weird look. Every time, including the dog, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only thing about this entire show that legitimately makes sense is how mad she is when he pulls in the driveway with this fucking car. She's like, "This is what you got. This is what you got. We need a station wagon for the family, and this is what you brought home."
I felt, all right, these are always tough. This is going to be a weird conversation, right? So we live in a different time. So I don't know what the old classic dynamic family was with the single income dad who works and the stay-at-home mom and stuff. Because there's the part of my brain that's like, he bought the car. Like, why is it like he used his money? Like, why she didn't use your money? But I get it. Like, the dynamic's different. But like, my brain's programmed to like,
Yeah.
he didn't use your money. He used his money.
Yeah, she didn't have money. I
It's
think
their
'cause they
money.
didn't- It's their
I
money.
know, like I'm not used to a their money household. Like the world works a little different these days for the most part with most couples.
By the way, the conversion rate, if you didn't look it up, is like legit 10x. So $100 is $1,000, 1965 to
Wow.
2025.
Yeah, well, you know what? If I got a car for $1,000 right now, I'd be like, oh, pretty good deal.
Yeah.
This is another reason why she should have come back from the dead, because he's struggling. Because he could have been like, oh, we're struggling at home. This is all I could afford. I couldn't afford
Yeah.
a nice new station wagon. But no, he's doing fairly well. And again, there's no reason for the mother to come back.
Obviously, like the idea of him telling everybody that the car is his mother, like fucking shocked everybody. He's trying to like double. He's like, I know it's hard to believe, but like when I first talked to the car, I didn't even believe that it was my mother. And you, again, like every time he says something, you get the reaction, like the round fucking reaction from everybody. He's insisting, like, listen, I asked her questions that only my own mother would know. And, you know, that's, you know, when I finally believed her, when she knew all the answers to everything, she's like freaking out, which I guess like rightfully so, because he's talking like a lunatic. They even like send the kids inside because like she's like nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, okay, my husband is having a mental breakdown in the driveway right now. Like, it's a again, another very reasonable reaction on her part. She's starting to lose it because she thinks her husband went out to get a car and came back with a fucking brain tumor because he's all fucked up.
a Model T and a brain tumor.
So at this point, she asks him outright, did you hear the car talking to you before or after you hit your head? And he says after. But that's not true. He heard her first.
That's
Hearing
right.
her is what made him go through the roof
Yeah.
of the car and hit his head. So I just don't understand like why he would say that. And even to support his argument, even if it was after, he should have lied and said he heard it before he hit his head too.
He's already said he can't lie to his wife.
Oh yeah. I know.
But I think the actual question was, did you realize it was your mother before or after you hit your head? So he is telling the truth because he didn't confirm that it was the mom until after the
I
head
mean,
hit.
maybe, yeah.
That's me stretching to try to make this stupid show make sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
She's asking like, was he using like normal words? Yeah, honey, regular words. In English? Of course in English. He's like, what else? Well, it could have been a foreign car. He's like, even a foreign car wouldn't talk in a foreign language. Like, so he knows
don't
this
know
all
that.
of a sudden. She's like, oh, so all cars talk English? And he's like, all cars don't talk at all, Barb. They're cars. The cars don't talk.
I think that's actually creative writing for this show.
It was. I thought this string
Yeah.
of dialogue was pretty good, and that I think is attributed to Jerry Van Dyke here, because he was
Yeah.
like, I thought he was very funny and like his delivery, and he was quick about it. Like that whole thing worked really good. So you know when he finally gives her that like cars don't talk, just this one, and it talks plenty. Because she's so relieved when he first says cars don't talk. It's like, oh, that's all I wanted you to say. Like she's so like overly, like she's so upset at this point.
I mean, again, it was a different world, you know, like,
Yeah, but yes and no, there still wasn't talking cars in 1965.
yeah, but if your husband went crazy,
You know what was Herbie the Love Bug? That was a big talking car.
It didn't talk.
Harry didn't talk.
It
What
just
was
drove and beeped.
What-
It like would like smile like with like its eyes and like fender and stuff like that, right?
oh, so it did car sign language.
Sure.
Herbie, not Kirby.
He's asking like the kids like, hey, you want to go for like a spin around the block? And the kid's like, no thanks. Like I want to do my homework.
Even the dog doesn't want to go for a spin.
Yeah, dog's growling at him. And then like, so now he's at this point where he's like, this is not going well. And finally goes, and I didn't even admit, like, you know, the engine alone is worth twice as much as what I paid for the car. Like he's given like the lines that like its mother fed him earlier. So she's in legit tears and like, you don't really believe that this terrible car is your mother, do you, Dave? It was just another one of your lousy jokes, wasn't it? He's like, oh yeah, that's it, just a lousy joke. Why would you say that in front of the kids? He's like, I don't know, I'm just an idiot. Like he's just kinda, like going along with it, trying to like make it like oh, no, my bad. Should have never said anything.
It's funny because you can tell in this show that Jerry Van Dyke has not hashed his shtick out yet. Because there are
Yeah.
parts where you can see Jerry Van Dyke's like thing, like the confused, mumbly like character. And this is one of those scenes where you do kind of see that.
Yeah, I mean, Jerry Van Dyke is great in this. It's just, sometimes you can't turn chicken shit into chicken salad.
I wouldn't say he's great in it. He has his moments. Like, I thought that dialogue earlier was like, cars don't talk. And like, yeah, they speak English.
Yeah.
And, like, I thought that was all really good and like quick.
I mean, for having to talk to a car, I'd say he's doing pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, for what he has to work with, but there's not a lot of, not a lot of meat on the bone to really work with no matter what it is, or who's doing the part. Even though he is now admitting that everything's a joke, she's like, okay, great. And by the way, we're not speaking right now. So she like takes off on him. He's basically in the doghouse for this terrible joke saying that this car was his mom.
No, the dog's mad at him too. He can't go in the doghouse.
Yeah, can't use the actual doghouse, yeah. Next scene is when we meet Captain Manzini, who's driving up to the house. I think it was like probably the next morning.
That's a beautiful car, by the way. The car that Captain Manzini drives up in is fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it sounds like he's like a collector of like rare cars, and that's his whole thing.
I love this character.
He's very like classic villain. Not in a way that's like evil, you know what I mean? He's just like a foil to the main character.
Yeah, complete with like the over-the-top mustache and everything.
He was one of those, if you look him up, he basically did voice work for every cartoon that's ever come out, which makes sense.
Yeah, Avery Schreiber is his name.
Yeah.
Oh, he did voices for Heathcliff, the superior orange cat.
It's not. It's not.
It is.
It did have a good theme song, though.
Just like this show.
This show does have a banging theme song.
So Manzini drives up and he's like, oh my, look, it's a genuine 1928 Porter. He's like, right down to where the rubber meets the road. So he introduces himself to Dave and he's like, I'm Captain Manzini. He's an antique car collector. And I guess he heard about the car, rushed to the lot, and by the time he got there, it was already sold. So now he's trying to, I don't know what the right word is. He's trying to now like basically overpay for it to get it out of Dave's hands. And they have this ongoing joke, by the way, that every time he goes to say, Dave's last name's Crabtree, he says Crabtree wrong every single time, and he's always corrected, and he's just like, yeah, whatever.
It's like Rookie of the Year.
Wrong Gardner.
He's offering him right up front $400 for the car, which is already twice what he paid for it. And as he's doing that, like the car's like horns and smoke are coming out of it, like basically saying like, no, don't do it.
Do you think the mother would talk to Manzini?
No.
Honestly, he should have just taken the money and had the mom drive back to him.
Yeah, just come back. He sees that happening and he's thinking that this is like, oh, don't worry, I can fix it. So he opens it up and I don't know what happens. He opens the hood and like just snags a wire out and gets like deeply electrocuted.
I've been shocked by 6 volts
It's
before.
funny that like he's getting electrocuted even while the wire's not connected to.
Yeah,
the
it's
car.
completely out of
He's
the
just
car.
holding the wire and getting electrocuted. I also love that these old model cars have 2 belts that hold the fucking hood down.
Yeah. It's like a backpack.
Well, it's like the trunk on the car is an actual trunk.
Yeah, it's a trunk.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think that's probably where the current terminology comes from.
You know
That
what?
makes
It's like
sense.
that's all piecing together in my brain in
Right.
live time as we're talking
Yeah.
about it. I'm like, oh shit.
Oh, and it's called a hood because it's got hood straps.
So he's like, listen, I'm sorry, I can't sell this car. And he's going up. He's like, all right, 500. Come on, Criswell. He's like, Crabtree. He's like, I'm sorry. He's like, I can't sell. He's like, all right, well, how about this? 600, Crenshaw. He's like, Crabtree. He's like, it's not a matter of money. So he's like, all right. 650, 750. He's like, Captain, I'm sorry. I'm not going to sell the car. He's like, you're the hardest, Cranbrook. Like, you made yourself an enemy.
You made yourself an enemy.
So Captain Manzini walks off. I don't know. It's like, so at this point, at what point, I guess like, because his mom's in the car, there's no way around it, right? He can't sell no matter what. But like, at what point of financial hardship do you have to like, just say, hey, listen, Ma,
See ya, Ma.
See ya.
I'll come and visit. Hey, Ma, you did your job. You helped me. I'm now $1,000 richer.
Yeah.
Like that's why you came back, right? To help me.
Now, is she just in this car forever? Like, when he dies off, is she immortal in this car now? And like,
Great question.
That is a great question. I was going to bring that up because
Usually, well, the way she presented it made it sound like she's here specifically to help him with something. But since we never find out whatever the fuck that is, like typically once that deed is done, she has served her purpose and would return. But again, there's nothing here. Like they just drop you in the middle of the fucking road and you just have to kind of navigate your way.
with Mother at the helm.
I wanted to bring this up earlier, I forgot. So this 20 point, like, what was all your first cars? I mean, I know you were first guys, but for the sake of conversation and for audio purposes.
Mine was a 1996 Pontiac Grand Am?
Mine was also a 96, but it was a Nissan Maxima GLE, and I have yet to have a car that was as nice as that one.
at a 2004 Hyundai Elantra.
I remember, I had the 93 Taurus. Good thing you need multiple questions now to break into our shit.
That's never any of my security questions. Don't worry about that.
Nick, I remember with your Maxima, like, I felt like somehow you obtained that car 50 times in my brain.
Twice.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So like I bought the car. I may have explained this on the podcast before, but if I did, it was a long time ago. I bought the car, and then I'd say a little over a year after owning it, I drove it into the back of a school bus, and really fucked it up. And it was towed from the accident, and I actually knew the guy who owned the tow yard. I would see him at work. I worked at a gas station, and he would come in, and his company would come in and gas their trucks there, so I knew him pretty well. And he said, listen, you owe me like $1,000 in storage fees for this car. He goes, but he's like, I think I can sell it back to the place that I originally bought it from, also had a body shop. He goes, I think I can sell it, so I'll waive your $1,000. I'll make some money on the sale. We'll call it quits because you're not going to be able to fix the car. I was like, yeah, sure. All right. Save me a bunch of money. And then I see the car fixed up and I bought it again. So I bought the same car twice. And you know what, though? A solid investment because I drove that car for, God, I want to say probably 6 years. 5 or 6 years, and then my brother drove it for probably 2 more. And until the day it was towed out of here, it turned on. It turned into a rust bucket, and it was totally unsafe, would never pass inspection. But that engine turned over until the day it towed away. So,
How much did you pay for it the second time around?
so the first time I paid for it, it was I think $7,000, and then it was 4 again. So I paid $11,000 for a car that was in a major accident.
I'll give you 12.
Yeah,
My
but
first car, I totaled it, and then we went on like a trip like soon after, and I had to like drive like multi hours like the day after I told my guy, and I was still pretty young, so I was like afraid to drive at that point. It's like, all right, your turn. I'm like, I don't really want to drive.
Was that the road trip? The trip you were going?
No, because was it the road trip? I don't know if I had the car that no, because I didn't have that car that long. Because we were 21 for that one. I think we were going to Hellfest, which is back apparently, or at least they're teasing it.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
They owe me $100. Fuck them.
It's pretty devastating wrecking your car at that age because it's like such a mode of freedom.
It's also the first thing of high value you've ever owned. Like,
Right.
You
Yeah.
And
specifically,
it
like-
allows you to do so many things, go so many places you can go wherever you want. And then like I feel like everybody wrecks their car, right? Like at one point it's either going to go in the shop for a while or you're going to find another car or whatever. And like it's just like that freedom gets ripped away from you. It's fucking devastating.
It is.
You
It
know what's
is.
weird? I feel like, so I just got a new car like literally like a couple months ago. And I felt like that was maybe the first transaction where I got rid of a car and like got a new car where I didn't have like sentimental attachment to the vehicle. Like every other time, like you get rid of a car because you spend so much time in it, with it, where it's like it becomes like a part of you. So to like get rid of it feels weird.
It's funny. I am 38 years old right now. I have only had 3 cars in my entire life. And one of them I inherited from my brother who like couldn't make the payments on it. So I was like, yeah, sure. So like I didn't even technically want it. It just kind of fell into my lap. But I've only had 3 cars. I went years without having a car at all. I just didn't need one. I worked in the city. I worked close enough to the city that I didn't need, transportation or anything. And so I just got by. But yeah, I've made it, 20, how long have I been driving? Like almost 18 years, 17 years I've been driving 3 cars. I think I've done pretty good.
Actually, same. I've had 3.
2. I've had 2.
I'm way past that. Taurus, Explorer, Taurus. No. So I had those 4. After that, I got my Camry.
After the Tauruses? I feel like you're missing one.
No.
Didn't you have
3
another
Tauruses and an
SUV?
Explorer.
He had the
that was my Explorer.
Mercedes, right?
And then I got the Camry. After the Camry, after the Camry, I had the Cadillac for a minute, and then I've had 2 Tucsons.
Oh, Captain Manzini over here collecting all these cars.
7 cars?
8.
8
cars.
How many of those cars were in accidents?
Half? I don't know.
Do you count him not getting an oil change and the car dying in an accident?
Didn't one of I think it was the Explorer, the hood flew up on you while you were driving?
The Explorer tried to kill me 3 times. So,
it's like Tommy Boy.
3 times. I first get the car. I've had it for like a day or 2. I'm literally driving to the insurance place that was in town to insure my car, and the accelerator was stuck. And so now to drive the car, you had to put your foot as hard down on the brake as possible and then release a little bit. So that happened. So that was terrifying. By the way, it was like my cousin, who's like old enough to be my uncle, I guess this was like a problem with him. And he's the one who flew through what's now 7-Eleven, like through the window. If you remember, like
that's right.
15 years ago.
Yeah.
That happened. Then I was working at the mall, and I'm driving down Route 1, and then my hood flaps over my windshield, which was easily the most terrifying thing that ever happened while I was driving. And I'm like in the middle lane, and somehow I got out of that, like was able to pull over. And what's wild about that is that, no lie, years later, I saw that happen to another car in the same area. Like I was driving, and it happened to a car near me, which is also terrifying because that car started skidding around. 3rd time, also right around the same time period, I'm working at the mall, which is on Route 1. I'm going down from the top, and my brakes cut out. I parked on the 2nd level. Brakes cut out completely. It's Christmas time, and so it's like all the cars are like backed up, and I'm like doing everything to tell people to move out of the way. And I don't know how, but I weaseled out of it, and I didn't hit another car.
Are you sure someone wasn't trying to kill you?
I was gonna say, it does sound like someone was, because all of those things could have been like, applied to the car. Like they could have jammed the gas pedal.
Yes.
They could have cut the fucking the brake line. They could have hit the latch.
Who'd you piss off, Jay?
Maybe it wasn't me. Maybe it was whoever owned the car before me, and they were after them, and they didn't know that the car had shifted owners.
Or
that old Dick Dastardly.
Maybe it was your mother.
Yeah, it could have been your mother.
As the car.
Yeah. But to get back into this, a bit of a tangent. We get in the next scene, and Dave and his wife are like, I don't know, like I think they're in their room. They're getting ready for bed or something. It looks like they're kind of in their pajamas.
Yeah, they're in their bedroom, because I noticed they have the weird I Love Lucy double twin beds. Yeah.
Yeah.
And suddenly it's not a joke anymore, and he's back to telling her that the mom's a car. It's like they cut out a whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, double beds in the bedroom. That's definitely a staple of this time.
Good thing it's not my mother the bed.
Oh, Davey,
that
what
was
are
one
you
of the
doing?
like. I want to say like Dick Van Dyke. Like I want to say like him and Mary Tyler Moore. Like wasn't that one of the first times?
No, the the Flintstones are the first TV couple to sleep in the same bed.
Yeah, Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore slept in separate beds.
Oh, you know why I keep saying Michael when I'm doing the voice? It's because of fucking Knight Rider.
I guess that also makes sense.
It's another talking car, yeah.
Because when I'm doing the talking car voice, I'm doing Kit usually. And keep going, Michael.
But like as explained, like yes, for some reason now we're back on the idea of no, it is my mom again. But there's no context as to when that flipped. And she's like, you know, I don't know, she's trying to get to the bottom of it, and he just wants to prove to her that like this is true. She's like, you know what? Like I have an idea, like come with me. And he wants her to basically eavesdrop while he talks to his mother. So he like drags her out of the room and takes it to the garage, and he's like, stay here. I'm like, goes into the garage now, and he's like, hey mom, you up, mom? Like trying to talk to it. Just thought I'd come in to say goodnight, mom. Obviously there's no talking back from the car at this point. So Barbara, who the wife, gets upset, and she like, you know, slams the little bit of cracked door from the garage and like heads off. And as soon as she does, the car speaks again. You shouldn't try to trick me, David. It's like, how do you know she was there? I saw her in my rear view mirror.
Except she's in front of it.
No, the perspective was weird on this Ferg, because I thought the same thing. But he walks around the back of the car when he goes through the door, so the back is facing the door.
Aww.
Yeah, and again, if you know that there's supposed to be no witnesses, just don't talk outside of the garage. Just tell her upstairs, hey, when we go down there, stand here and don't make a noise.
I don't want to give this show any credit, but right here, there is a point where she kind of starts like rambling off, where she says like, you know, David, I told you, no eyewitnesses. And then starts saying something about like the Smithsonian. He's like, you remember those drafty and like, is she nervous that if word gets out that she's going to be taken somewhere for like display purposes? And is that
probably
that? Yeah. Again, I think you're giving it too much credit, but that would make sense.
She's like, because she says it quickly and doesn't get into it well enough. Like, there's not a conversation between the two, but she says the Smithsonian. So I think that maybe the idea is she's just afraid that she's going to get caught and like placed somewhere.
And say that. Say that earlier.
Yeah.
Because at this point, I'm going, wow, she's a jerk. Jerk mom.
No witnesses.
Hey, you jerk.
You know what I thought was strange? A TV show from this era, it doesn't have the canned laugh or like...
Yeah.
Yes, I meant to bring that up earlier. No studio audience, no canned laughter, but it's perfectly set up to have it. And it's strange. Yeah, I think that might be one of the weirder feels about this show. Like, do you think you'd feel different about it if it had a laugh track?
Yes and no. I think it would have benefited.
Like right off the bat, it's kind of flagging me like how quiet the beginning scene was, and there's a little bit of physical comedy to it. He gets in the car and he's like smirking as he's like playing with the steering wheel. Like, you know, a few chuckles in there, like that would probably liven that whole thing up, but it's like just a really odd, quiet minute. So sure, yeah, definitely a little bit of laughter there would have helped.
Like him going through the roof would have been enhanced with laughter at it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yep.
Or maybe they sent it to have canned laughter added, and they just told the guy, hey, just add a laugh anywhere where you think there should be one. And he watched the whole episode and went, I can't figure any out. There's no way to put any laughs.
I mean, because the way that it's currently shot, it looks like a horror movie, like with it being that silent.
Yeah, it's like Christine.
Yeah. Yeah, my favorite movie.
You know what that is?
Yeah.
The Killer Car.
Oh, yeah.
It's a pretty popular horror movie, isn't it? I've
Yeah.
heard of it,
Is it
and
a
I'm not a
Stephen
horror
King
guy
book?
at all.
Isn't it a Stephen King novel?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I have heard of it. I did not know it was a talking car. I figured it was like Carrie.
It doesn't talk.
It just kills.
I'm gonna kill you.
Hey, I'm a car.
No.
You're about to die.
No witnesses, Davey.
Beep, beep. Next scene, it's like I don't know, maybe the next day or something, and he just takes the car out for a drive. He's driving along. He's like, well, Mom, today's the big day. You ready for the beauty treatment? Shampoo, tune up, the works. Like, oh, I'm so excited. She goes, uh-oh. It's like, what's the matter? It's like, look in my rear view mirror. He's like, oh, no. And you look and you just see like, again, there's like almost like wacky racers. So you see like Captain...
Yeah.
Captain Manzini.
And he's like, he has his driver driving him and he's holding up like a big sign that says $800 and then like pulls up another one that says, please.
Yes, nicely.
He did, yeah.
And now all the way, like we're just kind of seeing like their this almost spa-like treatment that the car is going to be having throughout the day. The first one's the car wash. And like, you know what I thought was interesting was it's still like the conveyor belt type method, but like they have to basically put you on like a pulley, like they strap to the front and pull the car forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same concept, only it's not automatically attaching to the car.
But because this car is in the condition it's in, it just yanks the bumper right off of it. So then you flash into the car wash itself, which again, because it's like the 60s and not modern day, it's not all automated inside. So you still go into like the tunnel, but the tunnel's just manned by just dudes who are going to wash your car. So they're just standing there waiting. And the guy looks down and you just see like the bumper being dragged along and the car's like maybe 2 feet behind it. And you're like, well, how's the car moving? And you just see Dave like at the back of the car, just like, you know, pushing it as hard as he can through the whole thing. He's like
soaked and soapy. I thought this was funny, actually.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good.
I'd actually prefer if it was still that way because the automatic one misses spots in my car all the time. I think a human would.
Depends where you go for sure.
Get, you know, a hand detailed car. It just costs 11 times as much.
I need to get my car detailed and I'm not looking forward to it because the price. I know that's pricey.
I have always just liked, like, I'm a child. I still like to go through the car wash. I'm like,
I do
this is fun.
Yeah, everybody does. But as far as like interior detailing goes, that you can get away for, you know, $150. Actually, I got it done once. You know what they don't tell you about getting your car detailed in the interior, especially if you have cloth seats? That your seats are soaked when they're done, and they have to put like this big plastic sheet over it, and you have to let it dry. And if it's like, luckily it was the summer when I had it done, so I just kind of like left the windows open and it dried out. But like, that was gonna be wet for days otherwise. It's
like when we watched the Connors.
What?
When we watched the Connors and she cleaned the couch.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Now I got a wet ass.
And then you can have like grandparent cars, plastic over the seats. Doodle will love that.
Doodle loves plastic seats.
I was being facetious. No, she likes driving in the car, but she doesn't like people messing with the car. I don't know if I told you guys, I got rid of her blanket from when she was a puppy, and she like hated the car for like a month when I put in like a different back seat cover.
I'm so mad, Daddy.
Yeah, no, she really was. She was like, where the fuck's my blanket? But the blanket, I thought a rat died in my car. Because that happened to me.
Now, question.
Yes.
Now, did it dawn on you to maybe just wash the blanket?
It was too far gone at that point. I did think about it.
What could make a blanket stink so bad that cleaning it?
I mean, I've been there with the dogs. If there's sometimes it's just like this blanket's been washed 50 times. And I'm done washing it. It's disgusting. It's never gonna get rid of this dog smell.
Dude, when I tell you, I had people at my work open the hood of my car because that's how bad it smelled.
I mean, the fact that you just didn't consider it as an option is funny to me.
No, because I took my car in for an oil change once. Speaking of the spa treatment, I took it in for once, and the guy jumped, screamed, hit his head on the roof of my car, and then
did he go through?
No, it didn't go through. And then the guy goes, "You know you have a dead rat in your car?" And I was like, "No, nah, bro." And he goes, "Do you want to see it?" And I go, "No, get it the fuck out of here." So I thought the same thing happened again.
I'd rather have a dead rat in my car than a live rat in my car.
I guess that's true.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
Also,
where
Gordy,
I
you
live.
need to move.
I know I do. I know they it's actually a thing here. The guy was like, "Oh, do you live in this area?" And I told him where I lived, and he goes, "Yeah, that happens. They like to nestle into the cars in winter because it's cold out."
Well, I think we were talking about it in the chat. They had to like change what wires were wrapped in cars because they are naturally like.
It's like they're almost like sweet to them, right?
Yeah, like the rats are like attracted to it like food, so that's why they always eat the wires. So like auto manufacturers had to like adjust what the wire wrapping was made out of so that it didn't happen as often.
Here, Steve, chomp on this.
Yeah,
I think before they were wrapped in cheese. I'm not sure.
that damn cheese wrap.
Moving along, after the car wash, you see Dave's now at like a place called Doc Benson's Auto Clinic. And he's like watching as like a few guys like looking at the car. Now it's basically just like mechanics fixing the car, but they shot it in a way to make it look like the car was going through surgery.
I kind of like that play on words.
It was fun, like, and you had Manzini like hiding behind and like watching along the whole time as well.
It's funny though, like we've all had, especially body work probably done to our cars. That dude had 6 months worth of body work done on his car in a day.
Yeah.
Which shows like, I mean, what was that price tag?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He paid $200 for the car. What did he pay
Probably
to get
30.
it fixed? It was like, yeah,
Probably
38
30.
bucks. Yeah.
Listen, you can't place a price on your love for your mother, okay?
The third stop was the paint. The paint actually did have one of the funnier gags because he's outside of the place that's doing the painting, and Manzini shows up again, and like while Dave's not looking, goes to like crack open the door of where it's being done, and he just gets blasted with paint. And when he turns around, he has like this like thick like foot like thick like stripe that goes from his head all the way down to his leg. And I thought that was pretty funny.
I got a very like this. It was at that point when he got spray painted. This dude is like straight out of a Three Stooges episode.
Yeah, and he's like meant to be like that classic villain type.
Like Bluto.
Yeah.
Here's the thing though. If you're going to do all this stuff, you're getting the car completely repainted, you're getting all this work on the inside of the car done. Why are you starting your day with a car wash? That's like...
Yeah, good point. Yeah, you should have done that.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
They're like ripping everything up afterwards. Like it's... They probably just thought of a funny scene involving him dragging it through the water. So they're like, oh.
Maybe they won't work on it.
Maybe you have to get all the dirt off before you paint it.
Oh, you definitely do.
But you don't do that on your own. That's not like your responsibility. They still have to like do whatever they do last minute.
That's why they brought it to a car wash.
Now everything's done. Car's painted. They reveal the car. It's looking like new. It's like a red car now.
Got new white wheels.
As they're unveiling the car, they play the theme song again from start to finish. It's like a minute-long song, and they play the whole song again.
So I think in the other episodes, this is the intro scene. Because that's what I've seen when I've Googled it. When I YouTubed it. It was this exact scene with the words on the screen.
And he's like, oh, Mom, you look beautiful. She's like, oh, and I feel just beautiful, Davey. Thank you. And he takes the car home.
And I like how he's waving at the neighbors, and every neighbor is like giving him the look. Like, this guy's crazy.
I think the car's nice looking. I don't know why
It
he's
is.
giving him looks. Especially now.
Well, yeah, at that point, it's like it's a classic car. It's even a classic car in the 60s. It's a Porter technically, but like it's like literally one of the first cars like production ever made. But he gets home and the kids are like, "Oh my God, look at the car! It's like fire engine red. Like what happened to the old car?" He's like, "This is the old car. Like just with a little bit of paint and fixing up." And the wife comes out and she goes, "Oh, Dave, it's beautiful. I don't mind it at all now." He's like, "Oh, thanks. The way you got it fixed up." And then she tosses this giant for sale sign on. And it's like, "Oh, it'll be easier to sell it now."
Like, fuck you, this is my car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First, again, this is like, I'm like, he bought this car. Like, it's not, you can't just sell it. You can be upset with him, but like, you can't just sell his car.
And second of all, that's his mother.
Well, she doesn't quite believe that part.
And even if you take the sexist, like, error out, it should at least be, it's our car. This is our decision. You don't get to make the choice that I sell it. Like,
They don't have another
Well, yeah,
car.
but then you can counter with, you don't get to make the choice to just buy it either.
he was given that choice. He was sent to go buy a car, and that's what he bought.
In doing so, though, she said, "Hey, I love it. Like, this car's beautiful." So why do you still want to sell it? Why are you still mad?
She wants her station wagon.
Yeah,
man.
she wants a station wagon. It was all the rage. Had wood panels.
I guess that's another thing too. Like in my brain, a station wagon is like a punishment more than a goal.
right.
And then, but there is a point in time, like in these years, like the station wagon was very, very in vogue.
Yeah, I mean, it had wood paneling. We had one of them growing up.
It was like the ultimate family car. You had plenty of trunk space. You had room for all the kids and the dog.
Nick, I remember like your parents having one. That's like the only like real recollection I have of like the classic station wagon with wood.
I had two of them actually. Mercury Grand Marquis. They were hand-me-downs from my grandfather. They were nearly identical, just different years. And like one was like the tan one is probably the one you remember. There's like tan with wood paneling sides, and there was also like a light blue one. Same exact thing.
I feel like I remember that one.
Yeah, I remember that one too.
They were both, I mean, they hauled ass. They shared an engine with one of the Corvettes, actually, of the same time, because it was such a big car. It needed a big engine to go down the road. But, cool concept. Unsafe as anything, though, because it's just like, there's like the seating in the way back that you could like open up that faced like each other. And, it got the job done, though.
I mean, they should bring those back. I'd prefer them over a
they
station
still make
wagon.
wagons. Like you can still get.
Well, nowadays, like the modern SUV is taken over. Like,
Yeah.
it serves the same kind of purpose, you know? You want a little more room than your standard sedan, like, here you go.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I know we have a lot of UK listeners. I believe the wagon is a saloon over there.
Oh, really?
Oh, neat. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Station wagons were good, though. If you remember when we went to see Thinner for my birthday, I think we stuffed about 11 people in my grandmother's station wagon.
We talked about that in like a prior episode before. It's still wild to me, the idea that we were all like 10, 11 years old going to see Thinner in the theaters. And, oh, man. If I remember correctly, I know we've talked about it before, but I probably not this piece. Most movie birthdays, I feel like I did it for mine and you probably did it for yours too, maybe for the same one. These are usually a Papagino's stop on the way, right?
After for us, I think.
After, yeah, but that Papagino's back in the day that has the jukebox and everything.
Oh yeah, you mix all the sodas.
Sorry, actually, they're called estates in the UK. Anyways.
No.
Oh, saloon was cooler.
Well, saloon is what they call like any four-door. We call it a sedan. They call it a saloon. That's where I got mixed up. But so there's more saloons. It's even better. But a station
wonderful
wagon would
world.
be an estate. Yeah, I watch a lot of Top Gear.
I watch a lot of Top Gun.
You've never seen Top Gun. Stop it.
I have. I've seen it multiple times.
It's one thing to lie about seeing a movie that we know you didn't see, but to like double down in such an odd way to then claim that you've seen it multiple times.
I have. I've definitely seen it with you guys. I've definitely seen it at the Somerville Theater.
Oh, now we all get together and watch Top Gun, apparently.
Yeah, we watched Top Gun and Back to the Future. That time Gordo was blind, apparently.
We watched a lot of movies.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying you haven't watched movies.
I'm not sure he's ever seen a movie at this point. Like any of them.
I have.
Yeah, I remember like in his room, he had a copy of The Patriot with Mel Gibson.
That's true.
We all
He
good
has seen
movie.
Larry the Cable Guy, Health Inspector,
Health Inspector.
50 times.
The Bench Warmers. That's a great one. It's like top movie for me. Like top of all time, The Bench Warmers.
That's how I know you haven't seen any movies. And that's a top movie for you.
I could watch that movie over and over. I
To be
have
fair,
watched
The
that movie.
Benchwarmers is a great movie.
Oh, I'm not throwing shade at the Benchwarmers. I'm just saying there's a lot of better movies, and that's like
Blazing
top 3.
Saddles is another one of my favorites.
I think every movie Gordo is listing has something to do with a fart.
Yeah,
Blazing
that's
Saddles, the fucking bush scene in The Benchwarmers.
Oh no, there's a whole beef stew scene in there at the beginning. That's how you're
All right,
introduced
well,
to them.
Well, moving right past that then.
You're outnumbered this week, Jay.
I know.
Welcome, Poo Boo Boys Unite.
See, I told you, this guy's a fucking flipper. You'd end up in an island by yourself, you know.
Gordo Island.
You can't just flip depending on where the strength and alliance is at any given time.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can because I like both goo goo and poo poo.
Listen, Michael Aloysius Gordon, I want you right now to decide: are you team? Are you goo goo or poo poo?
If you had to pick one, you know you'd be poo poo.
I definitely would be poo poo. Yes, of course I'm poo poo.
So, anyways, getting back into this, as soon as she put up that for sale sign, Manzini shows back up again.
This guy's like a magician.
Yeah, he's like, sold. Lady Crab Thaw. He's like, Crabtree. He's like, whatever. He introduces himself to her. So you're going to be getting rid of this old car. And he's like, all right, well, you guys have driven a hard bargain, but I'm willing to give you $1,000 cash. Like, what do you think of that? Cranberry? Crabtree. And he's like, I'm sorry, I can't do it. And she's like, what, Dave? Like, I'm not selling the porter. I can't do it. He's like, listen, you got to give me some time. Like, I can explain this to you.
Oh, we're coming to the ending that makes 0 sense.
Oh my God. I was hoping I missed something and that you'd be able to explain it to me, but it sounds like
Nope.
that might not be the case.
So she's like, yeah, you have all the time you need to explain it. The time it's going to take me to go find the certificate of ownership. And then she like runs in to grab it. And while this is happening, like Dave like shoves Manzini into the garage and shuts the door on him, which I don't know why that was necessary.
Because he needed to talk to his mother.
Yeah.
That is right. So he sidebars with his mom while Manzini's in the garage. And she comes up with a plan. And she's like, all you need to do is get Manzini to offer you $1,500 for me. He's like, well, how does that solve anything? It's like, well, if he went from 400 to 1,000 this quick, and then goes up to like, just imagine how high he'll go. So the idea is that his wife will hear that and then think the same, like, wow, if he's going this high this quick, if we hold out a little longer, he's going to go to like, a price we can't refuse. But like, even if that's true, how long could that last for if this guy's this persistent? You know what I mean? If he's on them this fucking hard at all times, if he's going from $400 to, $1,500 in the matter of a day, it's not going to take him very long to get to a point where they're going to crack. It's not buying you that much time.
Yeah, I mean, and if that's still $15,000 in that time, which could probably buy you an island in the 1960s.
Well, I mean, like, legitimately probably could.
But it's not even to buy him time because he agrees to it right away.
Yeah, he does. Manzini does, and it's just weird, but it works.
Well,
why does it work?
So, like, there's that shot of, like, the wall and them on either side of it. He's telling them, hey, offer me $1,500 for the car. Like, that's a bit steep. He's like, $1,500, that's my price. Like, all right, well, open the door. Here's $1,500. He's like, no. You have to do it in front of my wife. Like, in front of your wife? What is she, a notary? I don't know why I thought that line was funny, but I did. Barbara comes back in from outside, and he's like, hey, honey, listen, like, I've got an idea. She's like, I've got a better one. Where's Captain Manzini? And he's like, no, listen, Captain Manzini first offered $400 for the car. And then a little later on, he went up, all the way to $1,000. So there's no reason if we wait longer, he won't go as high as even $1,500. She's like, he'll never go that high. He goes, Manzini comes out, oh yes, I will. Like $1,500 in the car's mine, and like offers all the money and like starts counting it out. And Dave goes, no, I can't accept your offer. He's like, you promised me if I offered $1,500. He's like, Captain, please. At this point, there's this weird spot where, I don't know if you caught it. Now that, like, it's coming off like the captain's begging Dave, they show, like, the wife kind of being supportive of Dave, and she's, like, smirking when he's like, you promised. And I'm like, why is she happy now?
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah.
She should be more mad. He just turned down $1,500.
Yeah, she's, like, happy at, like, the assertiveness of her husband.
Nothing gets explained here. Something is missing. Like, they cut something out that explains this dialogue here because it makes no sense at all, like, whatsoever.
I think she's smiling because what her husband said came true.
The only thing I can think of is that, okay, so he's waited this long. He offered $1,500. If he waits even longer, we'll get even more. And that's where they settle, like, oh, we're going to send him away, and then he'll come back with even more next time, or whatever.
That's dangerous, though.
But even that is a stretch.
I don't think it's like a super stretch. I think he might not he might come in the next day or so, but just because of how aggressive he's being. But again, there's still going to be a cap to that. So I don't really know like what the long-term plan would be in that regard. Mancini goes, you know what? You haven't seen the last of me. And like he takes off as that's about to happen, as he's about to roll is when Dave goes, oh, see you later, Captain Bandini. He's like, it's Mancini and whatever. So they do the flip of the joke.
Got him.
And he Mancini lunges at him almost like why I oughta as it drives away.
So what is he the captain of?
Industry.
He's the captain now.
Captain and Tennille. Maybe he was the captain.
Maybe he was the captain of the good ship Ligma.
Nope.
Nobody?
No, I'm not. No, I know that. I'm not doing it. So
What about the good?
You're not going to fall for this joke I've done 15
yeah, I
times?
know.
Maybe he was a captain of Wendy's when D's nuts drag across the bow. Got him.
You did. You got us all. You certainly did.
Why I oughta.
Why I oughta. They need to bring that back more.
Let's bring it back.
Why I oughta.
Just get into some road rage fight. Just putting it on a guy. Why I just get punched in the face.
Well, that's the trick, though. You have to do it to someone who's legitimately pissed at you. that's where it gets tricky. He takes off, and now she's going, honey, it happened exactly the way you said it would. She's like, when did you suddenly get to be so shrewd? And he goes, when I got the car. And then he pulls the for sale sign off, and she hands him back the title that she went and grabbed earlier. It's like, so he was a starter for a minute, and now she's like, oh, who's this
Everything
dreamboat?
was resolved, and nobody knows why.
Nope.
Whatever. Can we get to the green light cancel? This is fucking dumb. I'm over.
We're not done yet. We have to get the theme song for the third
We
time.
gotta get the theme song.
There's a little, not much more. You know what? I'll be completely honest. This part I liked, by the way. After he's like, hey, come on, kids, we're gonna go have dinner where the whole family can be together. And it cuts to them at a drive-in style diner, so they're all in the car together eating. So mom's with them. I don't know why, but I was oh, that's
family.
Nice.
The whole family.
The whole
It's kind of
family.
strange that you'd think the mother of the car would want to talk to her grandbabies.
Right?
Yeah, you would think. You would think that she'd want to talk to the wife.
Maybe he doesn't like the wife and the kids. Maybe she's just
She cannot like the wife, but she'd love the
Yeah,
grandchildren.
she's still over grandkids.
she just ejects the wife.
Boy.
Oh man, what if they neck in the car?
I was thinking that too. What if one day the wife's super horny? And
You probably wouldn't if you know that your mother is in the car.
well, that would be a funny episode. Him trying to resist because he knows it's the mom, and the wife's like, "Come on, take off
I
my
feel kind of
top."
weird putting gas in the car.
Oh.
Put your suitcase in the trunk.
Wrong hole.
So yeah, right after they're all eating, we get to the next scene. It's that night, and you just see Dave in the garage talking to his mother. And she's going, well, I certainly helped you with that Mancini problem, didn't I? And then he says, well, no offense, mother, but there wouldn't have been a Captain Mancini problem if you didn't come back to help me. And
Valid.
She's like, it's only the beginning. He's like, it is? Sure, that's what mothers are for. And it's like, well, so are you here to help him or make his life more difficult?
Ugh.
Who knows?
They don't even
It's like
know.
they threw a bunch of ideas into a bucket, but didn't figure out a way to make them work.
She just thanked him for the day and said that was the nicest homecoming day 1928 Porter ever had. He goes, welcome home, Mom. And he pulls out a bouquet of flowers. He's like, oh, Davey, they're gorgeous. And then he looks around and can't figure out where to put the flowers. So he pulls the hood ornament off of his mom and just shoves the flowers in the hole where it's supposed to be. And it was that was kind of a weird thing too. I forgot hood ornaments existed for a while.
Yep.
Yeah.
Weird that they like would just come off.
I like blanked out. It took me forever to figure out what they were called again. Like, because I was like completely blank after I saw it, like the scene.
Yeah, they're mainly just it's like in the grills now.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
And then basically kind of closes out where it's nighttime and they say goodbye to one another, or good night. And it's it was a long day, but a nice one. And then Dave closes the garage and we get to the closing credits, which is the third time we hear the full song with footage.
And it's not a short song.
It's not.
It was like a 23-minute episode or so, whatever, and 3 minutes go just to playing this song.
Yeah.
It's like it was made by the creator's wife, and he wanted to show he really likes it.
And yeah, that was like how it ends. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's much else to say. There wasn't.
No.
Nope.
There wasn't a lot of info on the show. It was such a quick run and so long. Of the fact that we even had a couple up front was great. Yeah, I don't know. This show is certainly different.
How many episodes did it go?
Like 30. It's like classic old television where like a season of television is super long. So yeah, it went. I have it right there. It's 30 episodes exactly.
That'd be 20 years in England.
Well, yeah, like all those like 6-episode series and stuff that they do, you're probably talking like a 5-year run to get that amount out.
Think about the Christmas shows. Yeah, I was going to say.
Can we put the car in the Smithsonian exhibit we talked about?
Oh, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, when Gordo figures out how to get the Simpsons TV in there.
Don't give me ideas. I will figure it out.
I invented this cartoon, Ray.
Might as well get into the green light or cancel for this one. Joe is not here in the incredibly unlikely event of a tie. Joe's vote will be available on Instagram and X and everything else we have. So just keep an eye out for that and you'll see the graphic and can count it out yourself.
Oh, it'll be a tie. All right.
So I don't know what order to go in. Ferg, I never start with you. So go ahead.
All right. Unfortunately, this is going to be a cancel for me. Show's bizarre. And like weird shows like this work. Like we're come from an era where like the monsters exist. I Dream of Jeannie. It's like all supernatural weird shit. Like that stuff can work, but it's just such poor writing. So many holes. There's so much more that needed to be explained. And I'm not canceling it because it's a show where a guy's mom comes back as a car. I'm canceling it because of the poor writing. I think it would have very much benefited from a laugh track that it didn't have. And I think it had spots. I liked the middle portion of the show. I thought it was funny. And just the beginning and the end are so ridiculous. That ending makes no sense. The beginning doesn't make very much sense. And I want to like this. It's hard to stretch it enough into a green light. So unfortunately, it is a cancel from me. But thanks Philip for suggesting it for the show.
Gordo.
Okay, so Ferg, you actually just kind of tickled my fancy there because
Ooh, want me to do it again?
Yeah.
Ferg, can you go ahead and tickle his fanny again?
I don't know why that's funny. No, you know what this reminded me of? With the no laugh track, this is a Twilight Zone episode. This is a proto Twilight Zone episode. You get thrown in the middle, it's something bizarre, and it ends. It's still going to be a cancel for me because the thing that the Twilight Zone had going for it was that it was a different thing each week, whereas I don't think I needed any more than what I got out of here. A+ for the theme song. Like, that's the only good part of this show. Other than that, it's a cancel. But yeah, it reminds me of the Twilight Zone.
Nick.
Yeah, I clock watched pretty hard on this one. It's an easy cancel. Love Jerry Van Dyke. I think he's an icon. He's hysterical. But there's, like Ferg said, there's writing in the show is inexcusable. There's no laugh track. It's got a really weird vibe. Nothing is explained. The plot is hardly a plot. There's just so much wrong with this show. This is one of the easier cancels we've ever had. So Joe's probably going to quirky greenlight it or something, but easy cancel.
Listen, I was almost tempted to quirky greenlight it because there's like elements of it I like because
so bad it's good. Like
it is in a way. And there's like I didn't clock watch it at all, actually. I thought it went by. It was so simple in nature. There wasn't, it wasn't that bad. And I really liked, there was like an innocence to Jerry Van Dyke's character that I did like. And just watching him and like we said, just seeing him in like a different era of his life was pretty fun. Listen, the show sucks. It has its things to it. Actually, Gordo, I think your point about it being Twilight Zone-like, it is interesting. You could kind of get the same cut and add some ominous music in certain points, and it would really change the whole vibe. We said how much a laugh track would change it. Well, just the same way you put weird music in those spots too, and it would really change the vibe.
No witnesses. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. So yeah, but unfortunately, I do have to give it the cancel. Also, although there is like this sick part of me that wants to see what like another episode is like.
Oh, absolutely.
But like that doesn't make it a good show. Sadly, I apologize to my mother, the car. You're already an 0 for 4, so regardless of Joe's score, you're getting the cancel from us. I want to thank everyone who listened. I know this is not the most common of shows, so I don't know if any of you guys are fans, but again, go to YouTube if you want to watch it. Again, S1E1pod.com is where you can find all the links to where you can follow us, where you can listen to us, all that stuff. Buy a t-shirt if you so choose, and we will make very little money off of it, but would appreciate it nonetheless. We'll catch you next week with another new episode, but until then, thank you. Goodbye.
I think we got the best Manzini Monday.